Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Tuesday Night Luke Live Online on Wednesday. But rather say, because you know, let me offer an explanation. I am the director of the Polish Father's Office of Ecumenical and Multi-Faith Relations, and I spent the past 2 weeks actually compiling all the different articles I've written of ecumenical and multi-faith events I've attended for our summer edition of our email newsletter, including a wonderful encounter with people from the Hindu tradition. And my deadlines were yesterday. I got everything off, but it took me much longer than I expected, doesn't it always? But if you are interested in ecumenism, dialogue between all members of the Christian denominations, or discussions with people of different faiths, please write me at lukelive@lukelive.com. That's lukelive@lukelive.com, and I'll be very happy to put you on our newsletter mailing list. It should come out in about a week or so. I'm also the director of the Polish Associates, which is a group of people mostly who live and work within Polish parishes in the United States. We're in 12 cities, and they like to meet once a month to discuss spirituality, the implementation of their faith, learn about Paulist founder Isaac Hecker, try to integrate Paulist spirituality, what they hear from preaching, what we're reading from Paulist press, etc. And I'm the editor of that newsletter as well, although that newsletter has a whole team of very, very talented people, and I mostly just overlook it and add a little input and such. But that was done yesterday also. If you would like to know, many of you, of course, are not at Polish parishes. I'm thinking of, it's not official yet, but I'm thinking of doing a Zoom, maybe not as much as once a month, but if you're far out in somewhere in the U.S. and you think you would like that kind of a Zoom spiritual talk meeting from time to time, you'd be sort of adjunct Paulist Associates, you can write me and I will consider, depending on the interest. Okay, so now that's 2 and 20 minutes. Let's get to Luke chapter 23. This is the actual death of Jesus himself, and it's chapter 23, verses 44 through 49. Very poignant and important. Okay. It was now about noon, and darkness covered the whole land because of an eclipse of the sun. Then the veil of the temple was torn down the middle. Jesus cried out in a loud voice, "Father, into your hands I commend my spirit." And when he had said this, he breathed his last. The centurion who witnessed what had happened glorified God and said, "This man was innocent beyond doubt." And when all the people who had gathered for this spectacle saw what had happened, they returned home, beating their breasts. But all his acquaintances stood off at a distance, including the women who had followed him from Galilee and saw these events. So, what's our commentary? What am I inviting you to contemplate this day, this week, in this life of ours? Several things. First, why is it so important that we witness the death of Jesus, the death of God made human? Again, the deep impression God wants to make with us that death is part of life and God is with us in the dying, in the suffering. There's something in the human heart, and it's a reason why many people don't accept Jesus, don't accept Christianity as a way, because really in our gut we want glorification, we want forever transfiguration. We have in our Hebrew scriptures Elijah going up to heaven in the chariot of fire, that's something we all would hope for, a kind of glorious ascension. And although Jesus does ascend to heaven too, but it's not with all that grandeur. And so we realize, especially for the Jewish folks who could not accept Jesus then or even now, it's just still not only about wanting something positive and grand, but also this Jewish sense of God being so completely other, so different from humanity, yet marvelously, astoundingly interested in humanity, but to actually become human is beyond what their capabilities of accepting or understanding. However, they do see God incarnated through the Torah and through the acting of and the ritual within themselves. So there's something very similar and complementary, but not exactly the same as the incarnation, and an incarnation that works and stands with us even in and through suffering to promise hope and to confirm the resurrection of the dead, which again was part of Judaism in a good percentage, but not fully accepted or embraced. So we see a little the distinctions and some of the similarities, but how profound that is, that God doesn't promise to eliminate suffering, the deep reality of life, that there's joy and sorrow, is with us in all these things. The veil of the temple torn down the middle. Remember when Jesus was, he takes out the whip to the money changers at the temple, and he said, this should be a place of prayer, not merchandise. Again, that's complicated, but to cut to the quick of it, he said it should be a place of prayer for all people. And so that's what the tearing of the veil, no more holy of holies, because everyone can go right into the presence of God. So let's see, my timer is still going on, but my you probably can hear me, but I'm going to have to stop and do a part 2. Okay, here we go.